finally. So welcome to welcome to this Thursday night's Livewell. And so again, pardon us for the technical difficulties, but we got it figured out, we think. And the problem is, it's an Apple, and we're all HP guys.
I dare you to say something nice about Apple right now.
Apples are all right. So anyway,
apples are for eating.
We got Apple stock. We got it figured out. So
Paul's a little hot over there.
Everything. Paul gets frustrated with them computers and all that right there. So we got it figured out. So we're going to start again. So again, thank you for tuning in to this Thursday night's, which will now be an abbreviated edition of the Livewell here at Fish, North Georgia. And I might go back and edit that and cut all that stuff out. I probably can do that. But again, we want to thank you guys that have hung with us through this, and that the picture might be bad. That's the internet.
George,
we're gonna have
don't
to
care.
Yeah, just so long as you can hear us right now, you guys are just going to have to listen to it and not worry about seeing our beautiful faces. But I want to make sure, while I got a chance, we want to thank Rachel Collins with 400homes.com for sponsoring the Livewell. If you guys got any real estate needs whatsoever, whether you're buying or selling a home, Rachel is your agent for you. And here's the picture behind us. Way. As you can see, her number is 770-310-0599. You can get her at Rachel at 400homes.com. And again, seriously, she's a really cool person. Will do you a very professional job. She's got listings all over. She covers from the Tennessee line down to Alpharetta and anywhere in between there in North Georgia. So give Rachel a call if you're buying, selling, or looking. And again, tell her that the guys at Fish North Georgia sent you. So now that we're on, and finally going to get this stuff. We actually have a great episode in store for you. We got Dana Smith here with FCP Fishing. You guys know him from his YouTube channel. And we also got Mr. Steve Pinkston from Sugar Hill Bait. Is it Sugar Hill Bait Co. or Company?
Company.
Company.
Yeah.
Sugar Hill Bait.
What's the official name of the nut?
What's the official?
Sugar Hill Nut Company.
So he has Sugar Hill Nut Company.
Pretty original.
Of course, we go. We got some of that here. And again, he makes some great underspins and shaky heads. We got them here at fishnorthgeorgia.com. You guys need to check them out. They are good, especially if you throw underspins. They run true, and we all know how that is. So
throw that sweet thing.
So got Ryan in the house with us now that we've got that Paul back there, and want to welcome Mr. John Allred for sitting in the office and watching the craziness this evening. And I think now that the stress is over, we can get talking to fishing. How about that? Sure? Huh? All right, guys. So shaking heads. That's right, shaking heads.
My shoulder is below the table.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll work with that right there. So you just keep your head above the table. So now we just got to jump into it. We just got to power right through this episode and all that. So going to talk about fishing, summertime patterns. We're going to talk about fishing. Of course, Lake Lanier is the main lake around here. But again, there are other mantras. What do you mean? Mantras. We're going to talk about mantras. You guys keep us up to date on the Braves score, if you don't mind. So
I don't really know the words because it's like in India. It's more
Ryan needs to put his hat back on. The vibrations. That's right. Your chakras and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Vibrations.
seriously, there's a plethora of videos on YouTube that you can watch to learn about that stuff like that. I don't know.
It puts you in a better mindset.
It's all about not spinning out. That's a good way to say it. So
keeps yourself open to
the possibilities and everything.
Yeah.
One with the universe, nothing matters. Caddyshack.
Hang on, I gotta say something.
Yeah.
Steve asked a soul last Tuesday if we could fish his dock.
What?
I have
You said, do you mind if we fish your dock?
I'm a nice guy. I'm a respectful guy.
He asked him if we could fish his dock.
Well, there you go.
The guy
Very
was
nice.
standing there. We kind of rolled up in it, and I wasn't going to just throw in there because some people have a problem with that. And so I asked the guy, and he was like, fine. So we did. We caught that 313 off of it. So
there you go. So good. So we're getting some great Braves reports coming in. That's the one thing I know everybody's got that on their mind. I love baseball. And Strider he's a different breed and got the stash kind of like Steve does over here. And have you seen Strider's mustache?
I don't watch. Is that baseball?
You don't watch sports.
I haven't had my TV on in about 2.5, 3 years, so I don't know what's going on.
So last Tuesday, I go, well, maybe the Braves are going to turn it around. It seemed like it. He goes, I don't watch TV. And I said, okay.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I'm just trying to kind of don't want all the influences.
We got you. We understand that. So, okay, good. Well, anyway, we appreciate you guys. Keep us up to date as the Braves go. I am interested in it and all that. So,
nobody still believes me that me and you had a flurry as soon as we turned the camera off.
Yeah, so
nobody believes me.
You two
still.
fished together on our live.
Flurry.
Yeah, last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a good flurry. It was a second place finish flurry.
And so you both finished second place in your club tournament. And I did hear that after the cameras were cut off, it got a little bit busy for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the way to describe it? Yeah. So anyway, guys, so hey, come with.
We're not going to repeat what I always said.
Yeah, we won't do that. We're going to come with all your questions here for Lake Lanier and stuff like that with Dana and Steve, and we're going to kind of we'll go to both of them and just kind of talk about what they're seeing on the water right now and how they're approaching targeting bass. And of course, now with Dana is a multi-species guy, so he enjoys the fight of everything. It doesn't just have to be bass and stuff like that. So we're going to get into all that stuff. But again, right now, what are you seeing on the water, Dana, on Lake Lanier?
Right now, it's pretty much all bass, but top water is early, and then I'm throwing a jig and fluke.
A jig and fluke
later in the day.
Okay,
yep.
Working that how more like the
bouncing it down the deep points
and stuff like that. So that's what you're targeting. Fishing mostly the north end right now.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the water temps and stuff like that up there you're seeing?
It's upper 80s.
So still pretty warm.
Yep. Too warm for my liking.
Are you finding up there the fish scattered from shallow to deep, or are they pretty much just starting?
They're feeding shallow early, but once the sun gets up, they head deep.
Moseying back down.
Yep.
All right, Pinkston, how about you? I know you fished last Tuesday.
Well, maybe we can kind of talk about that because, the conditions for us were, the water temperature was in the low 80s. We had wind, we had some clouds. We had...
It's very different.
It was very different from what people have been posting on Facebook and all the pictures and the big fish and all the topwater stuff they've been catching them on. And I just decided rather than run down and go into Ball Ridge Creek and say hey to everybody that I would start up the lake and kind of fish the wind and the clouds and see if we could find something a little shallower up on those points. And Ryan caught one on a fluke, but I couldn't get much of nothing. And we bounced around to a couple other places and did the same thing. And at that point, it was kind of like, do I run this the rest of the day and try to find that top water bite or wait for the conditions to be right for that, or being a little tournament? It was like, okay, we got to get 5.
Right.
So what could I do to get 5 or to get 4? And so I decided to kind of hit a dock, and then I went into a creek and caught a short fish and got our second keeper and kind of keeping up with the sun and the wind, and it looked like it was dying down a little bit and the sun was getting a little brighter, so we moved that on a hump to kind of try to see if they were more apt to bite out there on the main lake. And we threw a little top water over them and couldn't get them to commit and dropped on them, and that's when I hung that good one and broke it off. And from that point it was just pretty much running. We decided to go south because I typically fish Shoal Creek because I live down that area, and we just worked a lot of the same, just a lot of piles and points on points, and he continued to throw his fluke and caught a couple, and I dropped in the piles and caught a few, and we just continued to run that the rest of the day, and it paid off. We culled I don't know how many times.
We did. You busted that 313 right there at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was a nice one.
Let me hit this question from Kurt Wehunt real quick, and I think it's for Dana. He said a jig with a fluke trailer or a separate bait?
It's just a regular round jig head, round ball jig head, and you put a fluke on it.
Yeah. So
what size hook on that? Like a 3?
It's a 4/0.
Okay.
4/0 jig head with a
4/0 jig head, and I'll change the weight of the head depending on how deep I'm fishing.
Okay.
Either an 1/8. I like to go with as light as I can get away with. So I usually use an 1/8 ounce. Sometimes I'll go to a 1/4.
Gotcha.
Or if I'm fishing real deep, I'll go 3/8.
Okay. So I got that. Is anyone catching anything on a Farley top runner
I
right
don't
now?
think he knows what a top runner is.
Yeah, and he knows they've just come out with it. So for the fluke.
It's an old bait.
Right, but Farley just came out with them again. So have any of you guys been trying that when you're fluke fishing?
It's a front runner.
Front runner.
Oh, no. I usually don't need it.
Okay. So there you go. So no, not much, but not much on that, guys, as far as throwing that front runner kind of pattern bait that he's just started putting out like that. But now you guys had to fish, you're fishing an 8-hour tournament, so you guys are pretty much, you tried a little bit of everything before you figured out the drop shot was what was working for you guys that day.
Yeah, because I hadn't been on the lake in a month.
Right.
So I kind of had to not really pay attention to what everybody else was doing, but kind of try to figure out what was going on that particular day. Now, I'm sure there were a lot of guys that were whacking them on flukes and everything like that, but those guys are on the lake all the time. They know
Right.
where to go, what to do, and they're on them constantly. But when you haven't been on the lake,
We went and run a couple piles that I had found them on Sunday. And they came up Sunday, but I couldn't get a hook in them. And I told Steve, I said, well, listen, I said, I know where some are like right now.
What's up,
He was catching them on drop shot. So I said, it's worth it. I didn't drop shot on them. I said, let's go try it. And I guess we caught 3. You caught 3 off of those?
I caught 2 or 3 out of one pile.
Yeah. They just wouldn't come up. Unlike literally 48 hours prior hand that you would throw over there and they would knock the damn thing out of the water.
Right.
And they wouldn't.
Well, it seemed like those fish, when I went to that first hump there in that mouth of that creek, fish tended to be on the bottom
Right.
and holding tight to the brush. So I guess they weren't real interested in coming up for
Wasn't making that
anything.
move or anything like that.
So I try not to get an idea in my mind what I want them to do or what I think they're going to do. I go out and I try to figure out what they want.
Right. Now, sometimes it takes some time.
It takes a little time, and we got on them pretty quick. I know we went a little while without bites, but I was just kind of trying to go where I thought we could get keepers.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to cover a lot of water with a shaky head, so.
It is, I guess, if you go that way.
Well, I work kind of slow.
I heard you're methodical. Not slow, methodical. Methodical. Now, what about you? Would you consider yourself methodical?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty slow. I mean, you're more. I know we got these good old
Killed
gnats. Good. I'm glad you finally got that joker. Again, guys, we're talking with Dana Smith here and Steve Pinkston tonight. So, now, you and I talked earlier, and what are you finding the spots? Let's just say area of water right now, depth wise, for the majority of your
I'm
fish.
fishing bluff walls and points that drop off quick to deep water, and early I'm throwing a Spro E-pop.
Right.
I don't need the front runner because they're hitting it just fine.
Right.
And I'll fish that until it slows down when the sun gets up, and then I'll
Switch over
either to a worm or the jig and fluke has been working, so that's what I've been throwing.
Right, and so. Interesting. He throws the E-pop. What about you on your top water stuff? What are you throwing the other day?
I had a number of different baits on. I had a fluke, but since Ryan was throwing the fluke, I didn't throw it.
What's up, guys?
Had that Seville.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chug bug. I had a Chapo. And those are pretty much my top water. And I kind of went through them to try to see if I could find something that they were going to eat
Right.
and be a little more active on. And then if nothing was coming on top, I threw a little Kitech, a little small
Just
little
try to
swim
change it
bait.
up like that.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, I want to make sure that you saw that comment. So, really enjoys your videos, and Dana does a good job. And again, if you guys don't know, like all the music and everything, that's all Dana, all the different instruments and stuff like that. You guys need to look forward. We've got a podcast coming out. Dana and I did. We talk about that.
Georgia Bassmaster's got a good YouTube channel you guys need to check out. He just left a
Okay, what is that? Do you know it?
it's Georgia Bassmaster.
That's Georgia Bassmaster
YouTube.
on
Yeah.
YouTube. Okay, well there you go.
It's easy to remember.
You guys go give Mr. Bassmaster there a subscribe and follow after the show. The Magic Swimmer, Rico, or nothing like that. What's interesting is listening to the two of you guys talking, and I kind of know how Ryan fishes. He had a little bit of everything. you pretty much go out and you're going to
I
target.
keep it simple.
You're going
I
to
mean,
keep it simple.
just-
You're going to target with the one bait, the popper, and if they're not hitting that, then you move on to something else.
They always hit it. So
He is in love with that popper.
you know, it's
for-
inexpensive.
Mhm.
It's tuned properly. You don't have to change the hooks. You know,
That's a
out
definite
of the
plus.
package, it's good to go. And, you know, I've caught thousands of fish on it.
Right. And so and like I said, you're mostly north.
Yep.
Pretty much
Mostly. I mean, I'll
north. You
fish
go
south some,
south
mid-lake,
some,
you know,
mid-lake
just
and all that. Let's go with kind of like, you know, he goes out with the plan that he's going to throw the Spro popper. So like that morning when you're going to top water, what was the first one you pulled out?
I think the first one I pulled out,
You threw something walking. I can't remember what it was.
yeah, it was one of those little Strike King dog, sexy dog
Yeah.
or whatever. It was a small one. I tried that first and then made a few casts with it and nothing, and switched over to the Sebile or the chug bug.
How long do you normally give a bait?
I gave it, I don't know, a dozen or so casts at different angles.
Right.
You know, because I kind of thought with that wind, those bait might have been up shallower.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like I didn't really consider them really holding deeper to the brush.
Right.
I kind of was taking advantage of the conditions, trying to see if they were up shallower on those points. I wanted something that was kind of moving and something that I could make cast from different angles and directions. And
Right. Now let me ask you, what do you throw your top water on? Just because Dana and I had this conversation earlier. Bait
just a
casting gear?
regular bait caster.
Bait caster, that's
the
what we wanna
fluke.
know.
I've got a couple of different rigs. I mean, if I'm fishing or skipping it around docks, I usually go with a spinning outfit.
Right, right.
Kind of nose hook it. But if I'm going more offshore, I'm going to throw it on a bait caster with a little swivel and a little leader. And
Look, I'm going to go off that point real quick, guys. If any of you guys are on TikTok, make sure you go to Fish North Georgia and start following us on TikTok, because we're putting out little videos and how-tos on that, as well as just some funny ones and stuff. But Ryan posed a question today on TikTok, and I bring this up because you said nose hook. Like with a drop shot, we asked the guys on TikTok today, hey, do you nose hook it, or do you a lot of guys will use the longer shank hook, and they'll Texas rig it.
So I do it.
So if you drop shot, you're Texas rigging it.
No, I don't even drop shot.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about the fluke. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Well, that too, the fluke. So you nose hook your fluke.
if I don't really have I don't know. It may sound a little weird, but if I'm throwing it around docks and stuff, I like to nose hook it because I don't have as much line out. I have better control if I don't have a whole lot of line out. But if I'm throwing it offshore off of humps over brush, I like more of a bait caster, a little heavier
Yeah,
setup
Texas rig,
because I
stuff
can
like that.
control those fish from a longer distance.
Right. Okay. I got a question from JR Outdoors. You guys have to excuse me. I have my backup glasses on tonight, and they're not quite as clear as my regular ones that I can't find. Does anyone fish with a spy bait?
I know they work down on the south end of the lake. I've tried it up north. I haven't done much with it. So,
You don't fish it that much. What
I
about you?
stick to
It's been a while. I mean, I'll throw it, but the conditions for us, I don't think Tuesday were suitable for that.
What are suitable conditions for a spy bait?
For me, I found that if you've got, high skies, bluebird clear, not a lot of wind,
No wind.
I think those are some of the better conditions.
Better
Shoot,
spy bait days?
But
Okay.
I've seen people and heard of people catching them year round,
Yeah.
depending on the conditions.
Right.
But just for me and the success or whatever I've had with it, it's just been more on those kind of real calm, no wind, because it's a more subtle little
Mhm.
bait. And
So
It works.
But you use it and you don't, pretty much. I mean, primarily.
I own one, but I never.
Yeah, that's right.
I've
You
never
own
caught
one.
a fish on
I've
it.
got
so-
one. How about this question? We'll start with you, Dana. Either of you guys using electronics?
Oh,
Here's
absolutely.
the question. And to find fish in the morning, or just hitting spots with history, though?
It's a little bit of both, but I always have my electronics on. If there's bait present, it makes it a lot better.
Is that
but-
what you use your electronics primarily for? Is to find the bait?
Find the bait,
You
you
don't
find
use
the fish.
live or anything like that. do you?
No, I just have down scan.
Down scan regular. So you're looking for bait, but you also hit those history marks.
I do, but I know where the deep water spots are.
And talk about, before I get to Steve, talk about that. We talked about it earlier. Like, you mentioned something to me earlier in the day about finding a spot and mastering the spot.
Yeah, my best advice to anybody fishing Lanier is pick a spot or an area. Say it's the upper lake or mid lake or whatever, and learn. Concentrate on that area and learn it. That way you'll know what spots hold fish year after year after year.
Right.
That's how I do it. You
Yeah,
know.
just so, but a lot of yours is from history. Like I know
Oh, yeah.
that I know it.
I know
in
what-
April this point is going to hold,
Right.
and
And a lot of those like if I fish a certain point and I catch several big fish, you know.
That's where I was
this-
getting ready to go, yeah.
Those fish will use that point year after year after year. You know.
so you can determine, hey, I've got a really good history of catching 3-4 pounders off this point in June,
Sure.
and so just kind of keep that in your memory bank and stuff like that. How about you as far as electronics go?
Pretty much the same, but I don't think I turned mine on for probably the first 45 minutes and so, and I didn't really turn the live scope on until a little bit later when I was doing more drop shotting. So,
How about this? Have you Lanier, like I says, the Southeast Georgia kayak bass fishing? Have you Lanier guys tried the Strike King hybrid Hunter crankbait for the spots?
Nope.
I have not.
I rarely throw a crankbait.
Okay, that was my next question.
my crankbait, as far as deep divers, I'm still throwing the fat-free shads from the early days. So I don't.
I'll throw a rock crawler once in a while at the winter time, you know,
Right,
for
yeah.
spots, but rarely.
And you use
So
it
that
kind
would
of
Don't
be
need
a
to.
no.
no, rarely
I've
use
never
bait.
tried
So
it.
nobody's tried that. I meant to talk to somebody this weekend about deep water summer cranking on Lanier. It's not one of the more talked about aspects. I guess on any lake here when it gets summertime and the fish go deep. So neither one of you guys pretty
I
much
don't
are
do a lot
crankbait
of
guys.
deep cranking. Period.
It's too much work.
It is
For
a lot
me,
of
it'll
work.
wear you out, you know. But you know, if I'm catching them the way I normally fish, so I don't need to.
Okay, I got you that. So, what have you been catching, here lately as far as when you go out? What are you seeing?
Top water fish is
And this is all
that's
species.
my pattern all summer long is going to be top water early, and then was that the question you were asking?
Well, I was going like, what kind
Oh,
of
what
species?
kind of species?
are you seeing?
Mostly spots and
Mostly
largemouth.
sparks and largemouth right now.
I mean,
I
just
said
a week
Sparks. My bad.
a week ago we were catching some topwater stripers,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it gets real slow in the afternoons, I'll go out and catch gar. I think they're a blast.
He fishes for
They're a
everything.
blast, man.
He
They're
does.
fun.
He does that. This man catches everything.
I got a look from the dude.
Well, I catch a gar by accident.
Oh, I go out and target them. I'll catch 15 in a day.
How do you target a gar?
Throw a rope like
No,
a
I
mop
fish
at 'em.
my little hair jig will just kill them.
They'll attack the hair jig
Oh yeah, and the smaller the better. The brighter the color, the better.
for gar.
I'll tie orange ones or pink, bright pink. Throw it out there. You'll see them dimpling, they're
Right, absolutely.
and I'll throw it out there, and I hook
They'll
them. I don't.
pull.
I
What
don't.
is that?
Yeah, I hook them.
That is awesome. Very
And
aggressive.
they'll jump like a tarpon. They're
Slider
fun.
jig,
Slider rig.
Okay,
like a
well,
slider head,
explain a slider rig.
I don't know what that is.
like a slider head, or
I don't know. He said slider rig.
Yeah, so slider rig, you kind of have to give us a little bit more. We might call it something different up here like that. So, Jeremiah, good, y'all stay away from my deep cranking fish. I know some people really like it. It's not something that I love throwing rock crawlers.
I know it works.
Yeah.
Rock crawlers are fun.
Rock crawlers are fun, but that depth and up would be my cranking. When you get down, you're trying to pull them 20 foot deep and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I guess the theory with cranking over a brush pile is you're not necessarily trying to get down in it. You're trying to just stay over it a little bit, pretty much. Because I know, like with a rock crawler, you want it digging.
Yep.
What about a deep diving crankbait? Do you want it digging?
if you can get it down that deep, I reckon. But I don't know.
But you don't mess with it
I
that
don't know
much.
much about the deep cranking.
How about you,
Something that I've
Ron? You
spent
got
a whole
anything
lot
to
of
add to
time
the deep
doing.
cranking?
Yeah, I know what it figures.
Maybe if the lake would come down about 6 foot,
Why would that matter?
so you can reach the top of the humps.
Oh, so you would just crank over humps.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that. What's up, Sal Pinto? Good to see you, buddy, here. Still trying to read that. For the guys in a tournament setting, if you're running around at 12 p.m. and need a good kicker, what are you trying to find in the heat? Now,
Deep points. I would look for bait. Of course, I'm on the north part of the lake mostly, and I would look for deep points.
target deep points.
Target deep points. That's where they're at.
Okay, what about you?
Well, you can either run a bunch of topwater stuff, or you can go in a creek, maybe find a bluff, some deeper water.
But you consider yourself more finesse guy than power guy?
I can go either way.
That does not surprise me. And you're more of a finesse guy.
Sure.
Absolutely like that. So you know what I'm saying. I'm just it don't surprise me.
I I like the finesse angle, but at the same time, I'm just as comfortable
Doing the stuff.
doing whatever I got to do.
You're down a tournament. You got 1 hour left, and we'll start with you, Ryan, on all this. I'd love to hear all your questions, and it might be the same answer though. You're looking for one 5-pound fish for $1 million, and you're on Lanier, or it could be any body of water, but since Lanier is the closest, what are you going to do to try to find that one 5-pound fish? That's all you need for $1 million in the championship
This time of year,
right now.
I'm gonna be fishing in less than 6 inches of water.
Okay, so you're going to be throwing that horny toad.
Yep.
6 inches or less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there
Pretty
you
much.
go.
Well, that's his confidence.
That's his
thing.
confidence. What about you? 5-pound fish. You got an hour to do it for $1 million.
There's a couple of docks that I might go hit that typically hold some better fish, but it's hard to say. I mean, this time of year, it's kind of hit or miss.
Right. But you would
But
start,
I don't know. I guess I'd probably just stick to running and gunning a topwater.
shake your head on a dock. Yeah. What about you? You got to catch one 5-pound fish for $1 million.
I'd have a
You'd have your hair jig.
no. This time of year, I would have the jig with a fluke on it, and I'd fish it on 8-pound test on a spinning rod, deep on a point,
Deep on a point.
and I would catch them.
See, he's similar to me.
He is just slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. He's like me. He ain't gonna change nothing, throw anything out of the box. He's gonna throw.
Don't
what
need
he-
to. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna throw what he feels like he can get a bite out. He's like me. I believe I can get a bite.
Right.
He's gonna do the same thing with his hair jig. He believes he's gonna get a bite doing that.
Horny toad on a buzz bait. That's a good one right there. The Mojo rig
I ain't gonna
might
throw a
work
horny toad
good
on a buzz
on
bait.
Lanier. It might.
That's overrated.
What I tell you what, let's flip that. What is the one thing you will not throw? You don't give a dang what. What is the one thing that there is no way Dana Smith is
I
going to
do
throw?
not own a drop shot setup. Don't own it.
Yes.
Don't need it. Don't need
it.
it.
He don't need
Why?
it.
Why? You know, I can fish a Texas rig in the same brush and catch just as many fish. I mean,
Right.
Just watch my channel. It's the proof is there.
Yeah.
Why would I?
And you got confidence in that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What about you?
I'm open-minded. I don't. There's
There's
not.
got to be something you hate though. Come on.
I don't say I hate.
Or not hate. Maybe hate
Another
something.
one is I would never throw on an Alabama rig. It's just too big. It's like throwing a
I'll go with
bus.
the Alabama rig. I mean, I've had a
can't
couple
do it.
of them and I've lost them, and it's like, well, that, you know,
Yeah,
My shoulder can't
I
take it.
know. And if you lose one, you don't lose just the rig. You're losing 25,
you lose
30
everything.
bucks. Yeah.
I,
Huh?
I love it in the fall and the winter.
It has its
If you don't
places.
pull it-
It
if you
does.
don't-
You know why Danny and Sal like each other so much?
Yeah.
There you go, Sal. I love you. Whopper plopper. I will not throw it. It's not going to be what I pick up first. Absolutely right there.
I don't throw one either.
Yeah. What's the one that you won't throw? Right?
Dang right, Cooper.
What did he say? That True Grit catches big ones. That's exactly right, baby.
Tear with that thing.
He has. There's been a lot of people have been coming in wanting certain ones like that. But what
Yeah.
is the one bait you will not throw unless it's just, you know? That's interesting right there. Look, Money Bass right there. Check this comment out if he pulls it up.
Money Bass got a good channel too on YouTube.
Money Bass, good channel on YouTube right
Yeah.
there, guys. So
He'd
go
be a
give-
good guy to have in here.
Go
actually.
go pull that up right there. Pull that Money Bass comment up right there, Mr. Paul, right there. 1 million 5-pound offshore spy bait, 25 to 40 foot deep. Very interesting. But
He's a good with his electronics. That guy knows what he's
Okay,
doing
yeah,
with his
so-
electronics.
definitely give the Money Bass there a sub, guys.
See,
Let's
when you
help them
throw
all
$1
out.
million
right there.
on, and you throw $1 million on the line, we're all going to have a different answer.
That's why I wanted it. That's why I put it that way.
If you got $1 million on the line to catch a 5-pound fish, there ain't nobody in the comments, nobody sitting at this table is going to change any of our minds as to what we're going to go do for an hour to go catch $1 million fish.
Right,
We're going to go do what we have the utmost confidence in doing.
right.
And everyone else that's watching is going to do exactly what they feel like they're going to do.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because I knew I was going to get 3 different answers, which I think lends an outstanding perspective as the
There's no there's
There's
a
no
thousand
right-
ways
right.
to go out and catch them.
right. But it's interesting. You're going to target it this way. He's going that way, and he's going that way. And I just, it's really interesting to get 3 guys that are good anglers, and you guys are going after the same fish, just in 3 different ways like that. So I think that's pretty cool. What is your absolute favorite way to fish? Now, again, you're a little different because you like to catch everything.
I do, but
But-
I would fish a hair jig.
A hair jig right there. What about you?
I enjoy a shaky head. I mean, it's not maybe my ultimate favorite, but it's
What's
when
your
I've
ultimate
got the
favorite?
most confidence in. That's spinnerbait.
Spinnerbait, old school right there.
I mean, it's caught me a lot more bigger fish
Right?
over the years than the shaky head, but I enjoy skipping around the docks and
Yeah.
being methodical.
Right? Right? What about you?
Depends upon time of year.
Damn, right now.
Right now,
Yeah,
horny toad.
horny toad, like that. So big flutter spoon is money
Now
right
through
now.
November.
That's that's good. You throw flutter spoons much?
I throw a jigging spoon, just a small jigging spoon,
Right.
in the winter time, but
Not much. How about you,
I
Pinkston?
don't even own a flutter spoon.
me neither.
I know Ryan has
I don't
a
have
few.
one.
I know Ryan, you got a few.
I throw 'em.
You throw them. Throw white. I can't read that.
I'm gonna have I'm gonna have 3 rods laying on my deck Saturday. night.
What's your 3 rods? Tell me right now.
No,
I know one of them.
fishing against you.
I know you're fishing against me, but I know one. We can deduct one. It's going to be a horny toad
Yeah.
or a topwater,
Nah, just a horny toad.
just a horny toad. And then your other 2, you're going to have one will be a shaky head. It'll be a jig then. You'll have something to bounce the bottom with.
Yeah, probably. Even though I haven't really been, my bites have been sparingly with a jig.
Okay, so I love trying to guess. So I don't topwater horny toad, a jig, and if it's not a shaky head, then a kitech.
Nope.
Crud, what I miss? What I miss?
I don't really pull it out except unless I find what I seen Tuesday after we got done. I don't pull it out until I see that and what I seen happen. So it's a creature bait.
Okay, all right, but on the bottom,
Yeah.
going deep. All right,
No, not really. Not deep.
not deep, but
Not deep.
not deep
at all.
Okay, so yeah, so
No.
like if you could only have 3 rods right now, what would your 3 have on it?
I would have a shaky head. I'd probably have a chug bug and a fluke.
And a
or
fluke.
and a drop shot. Maybe no chug bug and the fluke or the drop shot.
Okay, what about you?
Right now,
Right
it'd
now.
be a Spro E-Pop.
Yep.
It'd be a jig head with a fluke, and it'd be a Texas rigworm.
How good is that horny
Thick.
toad lakes with not a lot of grass? There's not a whole lot of grass in Lanier.
What's that?
I don't throw it around grass.
Yeah, there's no grass. to throw
No,
around.
so I tell you, just in simple terms, structure, shallow structure, but structure also like docks and stuff. You throw it in a lot of different places, but if you're going shallow, you just put it up there shallow in the back pocket, so like that.
Yep.
And I will say this, Michael, it does work over on places like Latham and stuff.
When
So
we're competitive.
It works in Pettit, it works in Latham, it works
Probably first
Hickory
damn time
Log.
them fish ever seen that thing.
We got a chance to fish Pettit the other day with a customer, and he's going to throw a horny toad. I don't care if we were pulling up the Pacific Ocean. The man's going to toss it. But he got bites on that, too. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool. Have you ever had a chance to fish Big Canoe?
I never have.
Y'all would have fun. You would have a good time.
I guess the question I have is, are you pretty much focusing on that shade, fishing, running shade, or
It helps, but not necessarily. 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the back of a pocket with no shade is just as good as 10 o'clock in the morning with some shade.
on a clear lake,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
like on the south end, clear?
Yeah. To a certain extent.
Because
You gotta be a little bit more. You gotta be a little bit more
there's much of a
stealthy.
shallow bite, relatively speaking, consistently shallow in clear water.
I will say Mid-Lake, I watched, two things with me and my cousin fished it last time. He was throwing white, and he was off the bank in a deep pocket. Almost like getting to the point of reeling it in once you get so far away from the bank like that. And he actually had a largemouth come up halfway to the boat and annihilate it. So, I mean, even though I know he's going for the shallow bite, that fish had to be sitting off and just reacted. And I threw one different color. He had thrown one over a log in the back of a pocket and pulled through nothing. And I threw a green pumpkin one right in behind him. And it was probably about a 2.5 pound bass. We watched that thing come out from under that log, and it looked like there was nothing under the log. You didn't even see the fish. And that joker followed it for about 15 minutes. For about 15 feet. 15 minutes. It's a hell of a long cast. It was way out there. But he followed it for about 15 feet, and I killed it. And then he kind of turned, and when I hit it back again, he hit it. But that fish literally did, he came out of, less than 12 inches of water. That stump was just a couple inches under that water, and that fish was just tucked up. Now, we did find at Pettit, and he'll tell you this, that even though it's a smaller lake, 100-acre lake, that every bass we found, and we didn't have good electronics on the thing, so we were concentrating on structure we could see, right? We were almost getting to where we could call our shots. If there was a piece of timber anywhere laying on the ground that was visible. And it's a clear lake. Ryan will tell you it was almost like it's right there, and it got to where they were so tied. I'm talking just on the sticks. Now, granted, I don't know how that translates to Lanier or any places like that, but they were tight, were they not?
Oh yeah.
Big tight.
I mean, there was twice I told Danny I threw my horny toad over one of them, and the brim got excited that we're in that tree. They just came out of nowhere. You know, you're looking in less than a foot of water, and all of a sudden they just arose out of the damn tree, and nothing come. I said, Danny, there's one on the end of that blowdown, and he.
Did the old wacky rig in there?
And they'll be swimming off with it. And he knew it.
You ever throw a wacky rig?
The brim did what?
The cometh.
The brim cometh. How about you?
Oh yeah,
I love it. It's my favorite way to fish.
skip's good.
Does skip good. I go through a bunch of them. I will just say certain companies last a little bit longer, but some of those companies don't last as long. Got a little more action, salt, whatever it is, they seem to get bit a little bit better. But do you use a ring?
Sometimes.
I'm half and half.
It depends on if I got the little tool thing handy and
Right.
want to mess with
You
it.
got that. So horny toad is one of only two things I get them on at Cedar Creek in Lula, which is what you told me. And so I went out there.
Jeez.
We were fishing. Did I say something wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. I never know with me. But I tried the horny toad there. I tried to throw it. I could not get bit on it.
At Cedar Creek.
At Cedar Creek.
That,
That place
I
just
fished
has
it
my
before.
number. It just has
Yeah,
my. I
that's
can't.
a tough lake.
It's a
Have you
tough lake.
fished it?
yeah, years ago.
It's a tough lake.
I'll go where I can actually catch fish.
That's actually legit. Probably
Smart.
Cedar Creek is probably one of the
Smart.
only lakes that I know of where there are days where you're not going to. There's nothing you can do.
That's true.
I'll argue with you till the sun comes up.
It's
There's
like every
literally
time I go
there are
like
some
that.
days where you can throw the entire kitchen sink at them, and it's like I caught them on this, and then there are some days you go back and do the same damn thing again, and you're like, I don't even think I wasn't around any fish. There was no fish watching my bait.
I felt that way. Now let me tell you this, and you have to know Josh, my partner, to understand his personality. But it's eclectic a little bit, and he's willing to try anything. He loves the drop shot. He'll cast the drop shot and all that. But he got the crazy idea to, instead of putting a drop shot weight on, he tied a shaky head on the bottom. So he had a shaky head on the bottom, and up about 12 inches, he had his drop shot worm.
I've seen articles and
Listen,
heard people that do
ugliest
that.
thing I've ever been put on. I mean, it's just like, there's no way. Pop, 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 pop. He just started catching. I said, I still am not putting a shaky head on the bottom. But one time he catch it on the drop shot worm, and the next time he catch it on the shaky head, it was pretty. I know they weren't big, but I mean, just trying something crazy. I was throwing all the supposed tos and everything, and I couldn't get bit like that. So that's how we caught fish that day.
Guess we'll remember that.
Remember that. Just try it. Put a shaky head as your drop shot weight like that. So, do you shave? God, I hope this is a legit question. Do you shave the horny toad?
No, I make
Okay.
a couple modifications to them though.
Okay. I never know with questions what
What
I'm
does it
reading.
mean to shave?
Yeah. What is shaving?
He's probably most likely what he's probably talking about is actually shaving some of the plastic off of it.
Kind of
He said, I cut
streamlining it a
some
little
of the
bit.
bulk of it off when I buzz it. Yeah, he's shaving some of the plastic.
Okay, I
off
got
of
so
it.
okay, I got that.
Yeah.
You do understand, Mr. Hightower, my hesitancy in reading that the first time, so that gets me in trouble from time to time. Now, when you throw your horny toad, just real quick, while we got it, do you prefer the weighted hook or the unweighted hook, or does it depend on what time of year you're fishing?
It depends upon the situation.
Okay.
I'll let them tell me what they want.
And what would the difference be? I mean, of the two.
If all my bites are coming out from underneath
I
docks
see you,
and
Justin.
walkways and stuff like that, I'll throw the weightless one.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not, I'll throw the one that's got the little weight on the bottom of it.
Okay. And you don't throw it that much.
I throw it sometimes first thing in the morning for an hour or so, certain times.
Weighted or unweighted?
Unweighted.
Unweighted.
Just because I want it kind of more on top.
Right.
It's just me.
And you don't throw them.
Never.
I know.
never
Listen.
fished one.
When you talk to Dana, you said, basically you got four ways you're going after them.
Pretty much.
Tell everybody the 4 ways Dana's going to go after fish. And again, you're multi-species,
I
so
know, yeah.
whatever bites you like,
The summertime is top water,
right?
and then my hair jig, I'll fish a worm, a Texas rig, and I've been throwing this. But I consider the hair jig and the jig and fluke similar
Right.
baits. That's about it. I mean, I'll fool around with other stuff here and there, but for the most part, that's what I stick with.
Yeah, you
And I'll catch them all year long.
Hey, no, that's what I'm saying. And you're very successful with that. What is, if you could pick one technique that you would like to learn how to do better that you're not good at right now, and that might be why you're not throwing, or is it just, I'm not going to change from the 3 or 4 things
Yeah,
I throw?
well, why fix it if it's not broken?
What
kind
about
of
fly fishing or something? You're like, nah.
Not interested.
So you're setting your ways. Old school is what you're saying.
I mean, what I do, it works.
Hey,
And
no, it
it's
does work.
effective.
It absolutely
Excuse me,
does work.
I'm like him.
You're like that too. You're very stubborn.
I'm like him.
Stubborn might not be the right word, but setting your ways. I can catch fish.
I mean, I'll
this
do
way.
what I have to do to catch fish.
Right.
If I got to do something, I will.
But right now,
But
you
for
don't
the
have
most part, I don't have to.
not
Just
having
watch the
problems.
channel. It's got
It's right. No,
proof-
absolutely.
the
You
proof
guys
is
make
there.
sure you go to FCP Fishing on YouTube and give him a subscribe. 2 videos a week, pretty much, is your average and stuff like that. So you can kind of follow Dana throughout the year and stuff like that. What about you? What is the one technique that you need to get better on?
I think a jerk bait.
Yeah, I have no confidence in jerkbaits,
I mean,
and people love them.
I like
No.
them more kind of in the pre-spawn, February, March.
Colder
But
water.
I would like to get more confidence in more of the early fall, September
Jerkbait bite
jerk
like
bait
that.
bite.
What-
Even the summer bite. I mean, I'm sure there's guys out there that will catch them on a jerk bait year round. I mean, it's a year round kind of bait. I just don't have a lot of confidence in it.
Right, Doug Phillips. Dana does keep it simple. Facebook user, just hold on. I got one question right above you.
There
God
you go,
be.
Dave.
Well,
We're talking about the Demiki rig. over
Yeah.
here.
all right. So we'll talk about that. Let's go ahead and get that question.
It's
Yeah,
just a straight, average round ball head with a fluke on it. It's simple.
But you don't fish it like you
No,
don't fish it
no,
like
no,
everyone
we-
thinks
you know,
Demiki
He
rig.
can't. He gonna give you all his secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, Demiki rig. 20 years ago we were throwing it for walleyes. We didn't know anything about.
That's right. Yeah,
Demiki rig. It's,
Yeah, it was called
It's just
something
a
different.
jig with a fluke on it. That's,
Doesn't have a name yet.
Didn't
Nope.
have a name.
no fancy name.
No marketing yet associated
no.
with like that. So no, he basically he takes a jig head and he puts the fluke right on it right there. So, what's the best way to get out of a slump? Last month has been challenging.
Man, if it were me, I'd get a jig head and put a fluke on it, go to the north end of the lake, find some deep points and start working it. I just had a video that uploaded tonight, brand new. Watch it. It'll show you the jig and fluke.
There you
It
go,
works.
jig and fluke. All right, right there. So, it is. Now, how did you stumble across that one?
Honestly,
Honest
the reason
truth,
I
honest
started fishing it, first of all, it's a little bit bigger profile than my hair jig.
Right.
But I had so many people say, "Show us your hair jig. We want to learn." And the hair jigs are not readily available. I make them myself, but I don't have time to make enough to sell.
Right.
So I said, "What can I come up with that people could do themselves?" And the jig and fluke was it. And by God, it works. I mean, it works.
So success out of keeping a secret.
Yeah, it's deadly. Well, I want people to be able to use it. So you can go
Absolutely.
anywhere and get a jig head,
Yeah.
and you can go buy a pack of flukes, and there you go. You're good to
Now,
go.
just one question. Now, do you rig it with the exposed hook?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's your typical ball head coming through out the top. Basically, okay.
just
simple.
it's just like you'd rig a Kitech or whatever, just the hook coming through.
It's just
It's just a Kitech without a
and just fishing it a little bit. Try
fish.
best way to say try different approaches with it.
Yeah, and
Like that.
I think it's something that not a lot of people, or not a lot of fish have seen, which makes a difference on linear because it's so pressured.
I got you. What's the yeah, any situation kind of like that though, where you just
When you're in
kind
a
of
slump.
when you're
troubles,
slumped and trying to
you just keep fishing. I'll throw what you have the most confidence in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you've got places that you have confidence in, but are maybe not necessarily paying off like maybe they did, maybe try hitting them from different directions.
So just
Not-
changing
not-
up your approach a
Yeah,
little
because I
bit.
mean, that Tuesday we went down that bluff, didn't get a bite. Could have gotten frustrated and left.
Mm-hmm.
Turned around, came up the other direction, other side, the other, and caught a short one and caught a keeper. So sometimes just, which direction you're going can have a pretty big effect on whether or not you're going to catch them or not.
Right. Just make little tweaks to your
Yep.
stuff, like to try something a little bit different,
Or
but
do the opposite, get away from what you're doing and go try something completely
can
different.
try completely different. Well, that might be it. Mike Burnett, I used to use that jig fluke for speckled trout in Arkansas
Alabama.
or Alabama. Listen, I saw. Listen,
Arkansas,
It's been a
Alabama.
long day.
it ain't been long. I can't see, guys. I'm blind as a bat right now, so my bad. Alabama, I can see enough to be dangerous. So, but again, that goes back though to where you were talking, even with your hair jig, and even with that being a modified kind of version of that, you catch a lot of different species on that year round. So I mean, it doesn't make, it's not a surprise for somebody to say they caught
Yeah, no, that doesn't
at all
surprise me
to
at all.
you, because we've had that conversation. And
And in
stuff like
fact,
that.
if you go to different parts of the country, a hair jig is pretty big. Minnesota, fishing for walleyes and smallmouth, or it's deadly.
I've got to get into this. With Dana's hair jig, is he talking about like a bucktail from Spro?
Yeah, it'll work. It'll work. I'm using ones that are a little lighter than Spros. I think their lightest one is like a half ounce.
Yeah,
I use lighter than that, but it's any hair jig. It's
Right.
it's more about the technique than it is the lure.
Right, yeah, absolutely like that. You ever thrown any type of hair jigs or
I
anything like
have,
that?
usually in the wintertime, for whatever reason. Just kind of throw it out. And
Do you
kinda
almost
work
think that it gives in the wintertime when the water's real cold, that bucktail
it's
or
a
that
little more
hair
subtle, perhaps.
kind of like a difference? Like a lot of people like living rubber in their on their jigs in the wintertime just because it gives that extra little poof,
Kind of has this
A little
open.
flare.
little flare, and so your hair jig kind of gives you that,
My jig basically sits down there like this.
right? Okay, well it does.
Yeah.
It does like that. What about have either of you tried the float and fly?
No, I haven't, but I'm familiar with it.
You're
It's
familiar
pretty
with
not
it?
that much different
I
than
have
what I
no
do.
clue.
Right? Huh?
I have no idea what a floating fly is.
Wow.
Bartonfield made him famous for a little bit.
It's just a technique where they're just dropping a fly, but they're just letting the water, the ripples. They drop a fly on their float. Carter's Lake is pretty big up on Carter's and
Huh.
stuff, but I guess they use the water and let the float kind of make that fly pulsate, kind of similar to like what we're
Now,
talking
this
about.
like
Like
on a
that.
fly
So
rod or regular?
but they make special rods for it, but I've seen guys do it on.
It's like an 8-footer.
Yeah, you gotta have it. You gotta be able to kind of. It's really light.
Yeah.
It's really light and slow like that.
It
So,
sounds slow.
Dana, do you ever snap jig your hair jigs?
Yeah, well, go look at any of my videos. That's pretty much what I do.
Explain to somebody
Yeah.
that doesn't know what that is.
Once it hits the bottom, you just you're popping it. That's pretty much what I do. I mean, if you ever watch any in fisherman, Al Linder does
Right.
that a lot for walleyes. It's the same technique.
And that's kind of like where you come from that. If you guys, when the podcast pops out with us, you're going to get to hear how your childhood and all your raising and stuff brought that into being a little bit with fishing for walleye, and how you
Yep.
basically have taken that technique down to Georgia and found that it works as well. So, and it's going to be a really interesting podcast. You guys it's going to be dropping here soon, and we'll give you more details on that.
Jeremiah, you could, in place of the fluke, you could use a curly tail grub and do the same thing. In fact, if I were teaching a kid how to fish on Lanier, I'd give him an 1/8 ounce jig head and a curly tail grub and just tell him to throw it and reel it. That's how I taught my son initially how to fish. It'll catch fish anywhere.
Right.
And as far as walleyes go, that's about the best bait there is. Curly tail grub.
Little white curly tail grub
Yep.
like
Well,
that.
years ago I used to throw the curly tail grub, but just kind of got away from it.
It's interesting. We have this conversation, like even with spinner baits and chatter baits. They're basically almost the same thing, just different form. Why get rid of the spinner bait altogether and stuff like that?
Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an interesting thing. People kind of just abandon the old school spinner bait for a while. Not everybody, but a lot of people, because the chatter bait was the newest thing. But a spinner bait has always caught fish.
Yep, still does.
Always caught fish. So what about you, though? Which one do you like better, chatter bait or spinner bait, Steve?
I like spinner bait, but they both got their place.
Right? Where would you use a chatter bait as opposed to a spinner bait?
That's a tough one. I really don't have an answer. It's usually just kind of wherever I'm fishing, wherever I have the most confidence. There's really no water temperature has something to do with it. I mean, usually early spring, I might start off with a chatterbait. Just kind of depends on kind of how active I think the fish are.
Right. What about you, Ron? Because I know you throw a spinnerbait far more. Do you ever throw a chatterbait? I haven't seen you throw one,
Not too terribly much, no.
but you stayed old school with the spinnerbait.
Well, all 4 of the fish that I've caught over 10 pounds in my life come on some form of a spinnerbait. So,
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's,
And you said
I don't, yeah.
And
I
you
don't.
you said yourself that you got your ones you go to, but occasionally you'll pick up a spinnerbait.
Occasionally.
Yeah, but you still like the old school style. You don't mess with chatterbaits or nothing like that.
I don't.
much.
I don't. My son fishes with them, and he has me make them for him once in a while. But I don't. I've never used one.
Never used one.
Don't
right
need
there,
to.
so-
I mean, if I stop catching them on what I'm using, I might do it. But
David Hightower, we appreciate that, buddy. Again, thanks to your guest and all the knowledge on this podcast. Well, that's what we try to get out of these guys. The whole point of this is that you can hear something and be able to take whatever little nugget you take out of it and go try it, and you might find it works for you and stuff. Little differences. We've talked about this before in the past where you like a shaky head, and I guarantee you probably stow it on your typical shaky head like you produce, and he likes throwing a Texas rig. And you're still targeting the same areas, just 2 different kind of styles. You like the more flat, and he likes the...
they both work.
They both
There's
work.
no right or wrong way.
Well, I think we all start off with a Texas rig with a little bullet weight and a bead, and
Yep.
we've kind of evolved, and for whatever reason, I mean, it's just, for me, it's an easier setup. I don't have to fool with the weight and a bead or any of that kind of thing. I just tie on the shaky head and go.
Yeah, so it's more for ease for you, and
And it's easier to skip, easier to kind of be methodical with, in my opinion.
right.
But
And you just always caught fish with it and never found a reason to not.
All right.
Yeah, he is so set in his
I mean,
ways.
you can do both.
Yeah, oh,
They're
absolutely.
both just as good. It's just what you like.
Again, that's what I'm still saying. That's why I find it so interesting. He's talking about the guests. I got 2 guys that know how to fish. You just got your differences in how you do that. So again, you fish to your strengths a little bit and your confidences and stuff like that. Now, Ryan's the same way. I know how. I mean, getting a boat with him, I almost can picture the entire day. Depending on the time of year, what he's going to target and all that, because that's his confidence and that's what he does. So, but what about you though? If you're fishing a worm, you prefer a shaky head better than a Texas rig, or does it really matter to you?
If I'm on a lake with spots, yeah, I'd prefer a shaky head. But if there's 0 spots in that lake, I probably throw some kind of Texas rig bait or a jig.
I would agree.
It's just something about a worm, whether it's Texas rigged or shaky head, on a spot lake that works. And Dana's not wrong at all about throwing a Texas rig at all. He has confidence in throwing a Texas rig.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Hunter's saying right there. Throw what you have confidence in.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
If you have confidence in it, you'll catch more fish.
Yeah, I
Simple
think
as
so. It's
that.
a mental thing like that.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know what kind of rod and reel do you throw your shaky head on?
I've got a 6/8 medium heavy G Lumens.
Mm-hmm. Now you braid the fluoro.
I do.
Okay. What knot you tie?
Oh gosh, double uni.
Double uni. All right. And what made? And there's a reason for my question. And what made you go with braid to fluoro?
I guess I don't want to say everybody else was doing it,
Right.
but I think there are some benefits to it. A little more sensitivity, less stretch, and all that kind of thing. But even before, I mean, actually, I'm kind of relatively new, just in the last 3 to 4 years have I done that, just because of the aggravation factor
Mm-hmm.
with fluorocarbon. I mean, for years I threw just red Trilene XL,
Right.
the red box, and got just as many bites, had more confidence in that, but I decided I was going to kind of work around a little bit and experiment with some more different fluorocarbons and change my knot. I think it was more user,
Right.
more than anything, and I finally started using that sniper Sunline Sniper, and changed my knot and just seemed to have a better feel.
Okay.
So there's something to it.
For you, so you
it
got
just took me a while to kind of get on board with it because
Right.
I was kind of like, well, this works.
Yeah.
And I don't have the hassles of all the fluorocarbon and everything, but I like it now.
Yeah, okay. Well, I bring that up because I know Dana is a fluorocarbon only guy.
Yep.
He does not use braid. So again, two guys, same,
Well,
doing
it's
same
kind of
thing.
expensive, and to go all the way on your spool, I like.
I'll
like
splice.
A
I'll put a backing line about halfway down and splice.
What do you
on my
use for your
spinning ring.
backing?
Just cheapest line I can come up with.
Okay.
Some kind of mono, whatever. Because you never go. You're not casting more than 50 yards, maybe.
Right.
So why spool the whole thing with? So
Okay.
that's how I
Okay.
save money. I
right.
fish on a
Okay.
budget, so
I got you. No, there you go. But that's an interesting little tip,
I do it on my bait casters and my
which is
spinning
basically
rods.
the same thing.
Same
you're
thing,
doing,
basically,
you're doing, but
but-
you're doing it more for sensitivity, and you're doing it more for like a cost kind of
Yeah.
a filler kind of thing. What knot do you tie? Do your mono or your backing to your?
It doesn't
or-
matter because I never get down that far. I'll never get
Makes
spooled.
sense, okay.
And I don't even know the name of it. It's just a knot.
Very interesting. I like it right there. Now you throw braid on
Just on my spinning rods.
your spinner rod, unless you're throwing the
Unless I'm throwing,
toad in some trash.
unless I'm throwing frog or toad or flipping grass,
Right.
heavy thick mat grass, then I go braid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the diversity and all of this stuff like that. What is the one thing that somebody's watching that they're going to Lanier for the first time? What's the best advice you could personally give them when going to Lanier that we can talk about on air?
I know what my advice is.
I would probably just go run docks.
Run
Put on a
dock.
shaky head or a Texas rig, worm, green pumpkin, and just fish docks.
Fish docks. All right, Ryan, I'll go to you next.
I'll be the oddball. Take everything you know about bass and how they react to their environment, and throw it out the window, and don't pick it back up again until you go to a different lake.
Yeah,
That's my advice.
I do like Sal's first time on Lanier be freaking. I think he meant to say careful, and but yeah, that's for sure too. What about you? I'm brand new. I've never fished Lake Lanier
Right
before.
now, I would
Yeah,
say
sure.
fish early and throw a Spro E-Pop.
Keep it simple.
You're going to catch fish on top waters on Lanier.
Okay.
At least on the north part of the lake. That's every time I go. That's what I do, and I catch fish every time I go.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, well, and again, you pop a striper here and there and other
Mhm.
things like that too, so you get a little bit of everything. How about this? What is the one thing, if you could tell a new angler on Lake Lanier what not to do on Lanier? Or any of these highland reservoirs, I guess they're all about,
What not to do?
What not
if
to do.
going to Lake Lanier, I might get some disagreement here. If you're going to go to Lake Lanier and you want to catch fish, don't fish traditional largemouth stuff. Fish for spots. I always tell people, if you're going to go fish for largemouths on Lanier, you'll catch a few fish, but you're not going to catch many spots.
Mhm.
But if you go to Lanier and fish for spots, you're going to catch plenty of fish and you're going to catch some largemouth,
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense. So like,
So my advice is, fish for spots. That's the majority of the fish in the lake are spots.
Right.
There's plenty of largemouth, but you're going to have better success targeting spots.
okay, that's very interesting. All right, how about you there, Steve?
Well,
What
somebody-
not to do?
What not to do?
Yeah, what not to do?
I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, I guess back to what to do some research, look at some maps, try to figure out a game plan going in.
Don't go out blind.
Don't go out blind, because that's why I mentioned the docks. If you're going to go out blind, then look for the visible, obvious
Right.
stuff. But if you don't have, if you've got the time to research and can kind of find and see what other people are doing, you can locate similar places on a map and go for it. But
Okay.
what not to do? I don't really have an answer. I
Yeah,
mean,
okay.
everybody's kind of free to do what they want.
Right, yeah. And again, that don't surprise me from you. What about you? If you give it one bit of advice of what not to do on Lake Lanier.
You're free to do what you want, like Steve said. But
But, give me that but.
my advice would be don't think something stupid that's in your tackle box. Don't think there's no way I'll catch a fish on that.
Even with the banjo minnow.
Lanier
Huh?
Lanier can be back-ass backwards sometimes, and it can be really you could pull out something and you could throw a Texas rigged baby brush hog and be like, I ain't thrown one of these in 10 years, and then all of a sudden start catching fish on it on Lanier.
I got what
I
you're
mean,
saying.
you get what I'm saying. If you
When they're on, they're on.
No, not like that. It's just
They'll surprise you with what they hit.
yes, nothing's out of the realm of possibility on a lake like Lake Lanier from happening.
I guess that's true. That's like that.
That's just my opinion.
Does Lanier and Hartwell seem to fish alike?
They fish similarly.
Similarly, yeah.
Same thing if you go
Similar.
to Smith Lake in Alabama. It's very much like Lanier.
Okay, and again, for the electric guys, I throw Latham in there like that. Is north to you is Browns Bridge north? Anything north of Browns Bridge?
No, I would consider Browns Bridge to maybe Holly Park kind of mid-lake. Anything north of that to me is north.
Okay,
I mean Holly Park's kind of north too. You know, it's
Right.
a little gray.
do you
area.
spend the majority of your time up the Chestatee or the Chattahoochee side?
I live on the Chattahoochee side, so I fish both, but
Right,
I prefer the Chattahoochee side.
prefer the Chattahoochee side. What about you, as far as the north end?
It depends on where we're going out of. I mean, typically most of my fishing is tournaments, and so it really kind of depends on what ramp we're putting in
Say we're
at.
going out of Laurel.
Laurel Park, I would probably stay kind of in that general area first thing in the morning, and then kind of run down around Sardis, Gainesville Marina.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have anything, I'll go a little bit farther, but there's
Right.
plenty of fish up there.
Yeah. What about you? What's north to you consider?
There's two norths.
There is.
There's two norths. You got way up the Hooch and you got way up Chestatee. Those are both norths.
Right. So you just break it by the river. that
I
you come out
I
of.
consider both up the Chestatee and up the Hooch north, either north end of either river. And then I basically say the midsection of the lake is Highway 53 all the way across the lake, down to about 2 mile, give or take, over to Bayless, Old Federal area. I call that kind of mid lake. And then anything below that, I say that's south. That's
Okay.
the south end of the lake. That's kind of roughly what I.
I got you. Dylan Johnson wants to know: do brush hogs actually work on Lanier?
Yes.
I'm sure they would.
Yes.
Maybe the baby brush hog.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, and I know you don't throw them.
I don't own one, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd work.
Yeah, I would say,
And
especially.
honestly, personally, I don't think you'd need the baby one. I've caught, some, especially in the winter, if I'm throwing a jig, I have a big trailer on it.
right. So might as well go with the big brush hog. you
Yeah.
know. Okay. I imagine that would probably work around in your typical spots too, around blowdowns, stuff, docks, brush piles, stuff like that. If you're going to fish it.
There's a couple years ago we got in that wobblehead craze, and we were actually throwing the wobblehead. We were actually putting a baby brush hog on it and throwing it like a crankbait.
Oh, and you're setting it come through like that.
Only reason I could say that is because we found some fish, and it was up Chestatee, of all things. We were catching some fish out like 15, 20 feet of water on some points up there, and they were spitting up brim. So it was kind of like,
What's up, Georgia boy?
that little baby brush hog with the swimming action on the back of that long tail with that little flapper type deal, and then just kind of rolling it along the bottom about this fast, kind of looked like a little brim swimming along the bottom, kind of
Right.
like a crankbait, but not fishing it as fast as a crankbait, and there's kind of no rules to the depth range. And we did that, tried it again the next year, and it just didn't work. And it kind of,
But it was kind of like what you said. It worked Lanier is unpredictable at times like that.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. That's just from my experience. I'll say that all the time. Lanier can be extremely unpredictable.
So I find it the opposite. I think it's
Yeah.
the most predictable lake I've ever fished.
Really?
Yeah, but
Is one end more predictable than the other?
yes,
There you go.
Yeah,
He
I
likes
would-
the north end.
the
Yeah.
north end is more consistent as far as always catching fish for me. I mean, I fished the south end exclusively for 20 years and caught plenty of fish, but there's a reason I stay up north.
Is that because of conditions or because of
It's less spread
pressure?
out. You know,
or-
there's more big water on the south end. Everything's spread out. There's a lot of run and gun type fishing down there. I don't have to. I can put my trolling motor down and catch plenty of fish without ever starting the big engine. You know.
Right. And you think because it's up in the river, they're more concentrated on the typical.
Fish are, in the
The
creek. You know, I
typical
stay in
fish,
the creeks for the most
Do you-
part.
let me ask you, all you guys that just taking that, would that be because of the type of bait? That there's more blueback down south?
Well, there's
No.
there's
No.
bluebacks everywhere.
Okay, I'm wondering
There's
why.
bluebacks up at the S bend in the Chestatee River.
Okay. All right. There you
Yeah.
go. So yeah.
And there's still shad in the lake too, though. You
Yeah.
know.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
So-
just when you get above Wahoo on the Hooch side, and when you get above like Toto Creek on the Chestatee side, then all of a sudden there's like 7 different types of forage they can feed on, and it's just a really. I think it scares a lot of people from away from that end of the lake, because some days they change in and out. That last East Hall tournament, we had 16 whatever it was, and pounds. We caught those fish. I found those fish the weekend before. I seen what they were eating because they busted one out of the out of the water on top of a dock, and they were feeding on gizzard shad. They weren't feeding on bluebacks or shad or crappie. They were feeding on gizzard shad.
Okay.
And up that way, there's so many, and this may not be the reason why, but my opinion of it is so many striper fishermen go up there in the spring with gizzards trying to catch striper, and at the end of the day when they're done, they dump them, and some of them have got away while they've spawned.
Right.
And there's been a couple instances that I know for a fact that's happening, because about 3 years ago we found a dock in Toto, and now I bet there were 15,000 gizzard shads underneath this dock spawning, and they were just going round and around and around in a circle. And that's how gizzard shads spawn. They all come up together
In a ball.
in a ball, and they like swim around and around and around. And they're all like this big.
Big gizzard shad.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah. I seen a Fred.
Fred,
Tell
everybody what Fred is.
Fred's the blue heron bird. I call him Fred. I seen a Fred, and I was on the phone with Jeff Nail actually at the time, and Bronson goes, "Damn, look at that Fred over there. He's eating a crappie." I was like, "Oh yeah, he is." And he found him a dead one. We got a little bit closer to it as we were idling into the pocket, and I looked over there, and I said, "That's not a Fred, or that's not a crappie. That's a gizzard shad." And he had it in his mouth, and it was this big.
I've caught gizzard shad with my hair jig.
Yeah.
And that some of them are 2 pounds. I mean,
I
they're
can totally
giants.
see why they would probably
Really?
try to eat your
Oh,
hair
yeah.
jig too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just, it seems like up that way they've got all different. They feed on crappie, they feed on shad, they feed on bluebacks, they feed on gizzards, they feed on crawfish, they feed on brim, they feed on bluegill, they feed on bass.
Right.
It doesn't really.
But you get down to the big waters, the
It gets
they-
very herring specific. It gets pretty herring. I mean, there's fish down south end like they eat shad because the threadfin shad are down there, but
And
Right.
You get resident fish
Yeah.
inside creeks, and it'll pretty much eat on whatever.
they're gonna eat whatever they're opportunistic
okay.
to feed on.
Back of Bald Ridge on Marina side is loaded with gizzies, dollar bill to pound right now. That's incredible. If you're going to Lanier tomorrow, what colors are you throwing?
Depends on what I'm throwing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm throwing a worm, it's going to be blue. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, you like the blue worm.
Yep.
And then
If
just
my hair jig is going to be the brightest color of chartreuse you can imagine.
right.
Top water doesn't really matter. I think I found that they'll hit any top watercolor usually.
They just like they respond to the reaction.
Mhm.
Okay, what about you, Pinkston? You're going tomorrow to Lanier. What color you throwing?
I'd have something with chrome, something with white, and green pumpkin as far as a worm.
Okay.
But I have gotten on a new color, or not a new color, but that copperhead softy worm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
mean, I'm not giving out any big secrets or anything. It's, I don't mind sharing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I tried a pack of those back first of the year, and I've caught fish on that worm, on that color, everywhere in Georgia. I mean, Kiwi, Hartwell, Clark Hill, Lanier,
And it's the Copperhead
Copperhead.
by Softy, which you can get at fishnorthgeorgia.com. There
And
you
I
go.
don't know what it is, but they seem to eat it.
Okay, well, and again, now you got confidence in it.
Hmm.
All right, Ryan, you're going tomorrow. What colors?
I'm on a white craze right now, so which I always am. But
You are. You are. No, we'll have this. It's not an argument. We had this discussion. Why do bass hit white baits? What is?
Shad or bait. Most bait fish are light in color. Silver, white.
I understand, but like a
flash,
say
maybe.
like a horny toad though. I mean, any frog. None of us have ever seen a white frog.
Yeah, but their bellies, their underbelly is kind of white.
So you think they're just reacting to the underbelly? So
Reacting
the top
to
doesn't
movement,
matter.
I think more than anyway.
More than
they
the
don't know
movement?
it's a frog.
Yeah.
Well, why will they hit a chartreuse lure?
Oh, I know. Well, we can't explain that either. We
Yeah.
just think spots hate chartreuse for some reason.
No, I think they love chartreuse.
Well,
but
it's
same-
love hate.
same
Yeah,
thing,
absolutely. Like they just, what do we say? They just
I
see it,
say
they want
I
to kill
say they
it.
hate it. I say when I say they hate it, I'm like they don't like it. Like I gotta eat whatever that is. I'm getting it out of here, and they eat it.
They do hit it. It's pretty interesting though that if you
Which they
think-
say that because bass have, I'm gonna butcher it, anochromatic vision
that sound right.
or
Sound good
something
to
like
you?
that.
Yeah, whatever.
And they have a hard time. They actually have a hard time discerning. There's two ends of the spectrum. It's red. We'll get LJ's gonna be here next week.
Yeah, next week.
So he'll do that.
Harmon will be in the house.
There's the end of the spectrum.
I
There's
know.
green, and then there's red, and then there's everything in between. Well, in the dead middle of that is like white. Well, they've pretty much figured out that bass can see white and chartreuse. However, they have sometimes at certain times of the year in water clarities, they have a hard time discerning the difference between white and chartreuse. Even though they can see it, there's something in their eyes that at certain water clarities they have a hard time just figuring out. It looks white to them, regardless.
Yeah, no, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that. And I know when we had Chan on and did a podcast, he said that it's been proven that the color bass see the best is green.
Well, I don't understand why I'll throw a blue lily on a drop shot, but I won't throw it on a shaky head.
You know that
Just you.
that
It
but
probably is.
You know what? No, that's an interesting point. Do you ever get caught up in stuff like that? Because I won't throw a typical drop shot on a shaky head. I throw something totally different. But I guess people do it all the time. Like I throw a Cinco on a wacky,
I think it's
but
all,
I do not put it on a shaky head.
I think
for
it's
some
all in
reason.
my head because, I mean, it's like I would never throw that on a shaky head, but you'll put it on a drop shot and
Do you
catch 'em.
do you want to share your theory, Dana, on why you only like to throw green and blue worms?
What theory was that?
Well, you said that there's a reason. You said a reason earlier why,
I don't remember what I said.
because of the blue.
Yeah, I read somewhere that blue was visible deeper than any other color. That's what I read. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
Seems to work for me, but every bait fish in Lanier has a blue tint to it at times, the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So.
I guess I'm in charge now. I guess that was what the pat on the back meant. They sing green and red perfect. Everything else is fuzz, according to biologists. Yeah.
wonder how they know. I mean, I know they do tests, but
I
how
guess
they
they've done
know.
tests. I know there was a thing on Wired to Fish. You can go look at it. They done a thing, it was several years ago. They had a bunch of bass in a tank, and they started dropping different colors of all solid colors of stuff in there, and they were looking to see which ones reacted, and out of all of them, they reacted to in pure light would be like this. They reacted to green all the time, and then they turned down the lights a little bit. Well, then they threw stuff in there. Well, the green didn't quite get bit. Some of them didn't react to the green the same way. Well, then they started throwing some with like some red and orange flake and blue flake in there, and then more of them started biting it again. It was a big old long thing, but you can find it on Wired to Fish. They were talking about it. They done it in Texas, but the real question, really, I know they see red, is why in the hell does red crankbaits and stuff like that work so well early spring, late winter? You know, I mean, it's just, I know some people say because crawfish turn red. Well, yeah, they do, but it's certain times of the year, and it also depends upon the vegetation that the crawfish have to eat.
That's like the methylate thing.
It's like the methylate thing too. You know, you can throw. Why would a bass eat a bubble gum? Well, in the spring and in late summer, or early summer, you throw a bubble gum trick worm or a bubble gum Senko or a bubble gum fluke and catch a fish on it, especially a spotted bass. I don't know. It's just weird, I guess. I don't really know. I'm no scientist. I'm no biologist. So I
I'd
don't
be curious
really
to
have
know if whether or not different generations of fish react and eat differently. I mean, you know, you have a thing upon.
That could be an interesting. That's an interesting point, but at the same time, too, I was like one thing that I'll say. Like my uncle and his dad, they were hardcore fishermen for a long time. They both got away from it, but they used to be hardcore fishermen. My uncle's dad said that all you used to have was them super salty black Zoom trick worms and throw it on a Texas rig. And you wouldn't need anything else. You catch bass. You go anywhere you wanted to go catch bass. How many of us sitting here at this table have a solid black worms in their box right now in their boat?
But I don't fish them.
I don't either.
I'm just curious if
But I don't
through
fish 'em.
evolution
Right.
of their species, if they've kind of gotten to where maybe different colors, different baits, different
Yeah.
things. Some older fish might try or might eat, and the younger ones may not. I don't know.
Joseph Castleberry, if you're asking me, yes.
Oh, you're out at Thompson. There you go.
We were at Thompson Creek yesterday.
How do you feel about scents? Scent or no scent?
The worms I make, I
You infuse
when
it.
I put, yeah, I just dump it in the bag and you
Okay,
know,
so-
I don't infuse it.
Okay, I got what you're saying. So, but they're in the bag.
Yeah.
You put something in there. All right. What about you, Pinkston?
I like JJ's Magic.
I do like it in the chartreuse.
You keep in its own little bucket, little box.
Okay. What about you, Ryan?
His little box that he keeps it in is, I'm stealing that.
It's just a little Dollar Tree, cheap little box because I couldn't find anything really the right
I don't know why I
size.
never thought of it before.
To keep the JJ's Magic.
Well,
in?
if he spills it, if he turns it over
Oh,
and spills it, it
oh, no.
spills inside the box.
Yeah, inside
the
It don't
thing.
spill on the
Keep it
boat
in a
or
little,
fit.
little
Yeah.
plastic.
He pulled that thing out the other day, and I was like, "Oh my God, why haven't I ever thought of that?"
Instead of having it rolling around in your, boxes and stuff and your compartments, and it's a glass bottle. You don't want it breaking.
Yeah.
Right. If you're throwing a spy bait or anything like that right now, what size are you throwing?
Small.
Whichever one's about that long.
About 2 inch? Aren't
I
they all
don't
about
even,
that
I
long?
don't even really know the numbers. I'm not
Yeah.
as well versed on that. LJ would know all that.
Yeah, it might be, but you don't throw spy baits hardly at all. And you don't.
Not my.
Yeah, you don't.
I got on that.
95
I got on
or
that.
85 or something like that.
Mhm.
I got on that craze a couple of years ago when everyone was like, "Oh, you ain't throwing spot bait, you ain't gonna catch some fish." And
Caught a big
so I
old
bought a
catfish.
couple, and I caught some fish on them, but
I can't stand the little.
then the
tiny-
railing started happening.
Yeah, I
and-
can't. I don't have much success with them like that. So, bait fuel. We've heard a lot of good stuff about
I
bait fuel.
keep hearing people talk about it.
This is interesting. Pull up Southeast Georgia kayak down there. All right, so water temps and sunlight affect the eyes of a bass. That is why on bluebird sunny days, bass will go deep or undercover.
Or you can't blink.
Yeah, can't blink, so
Bass ain't got eyelids.
that makes sense.
But some
No,
of them I've seen, I don't
Right in
know
the
if they do or
heat
not.
of the day, bluebird skies, they'll be schooling on top too.
Yeah,
so.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
you
saying.
know.
As I said, some of them I don't think they give a
No,
crap.
yeah, no, that makes sense like that. On a spy bait, count it down to about 13, and retrieve speed is important.
I would basically look at my graph and kind of see where those fish were suspended that depth and count it down to whatever that was. I mean,
Now, would you bring it through them or over them just a bit?
they were in 15 foot or 30 foot of water suspended in 15 foot or whatever. I'd probably just count down to 12, 15 and try to run it.
Right in front of them like that. So, and then of course Justin says over. That's exactly what Phil Johnson told me. Again, like that about the retrieve with the spy bait. And Phil throws a spy bait a lot, stuff like that. So I've used spike it pins.
I use the pins. To me, it's less messy.
Now, let me ask you this: do you ever use it on anything other than worms and stuff? Do you use it on hard bait, stuff like that?
The only time I use it's on the
on
fluke.
the worms,
I don't even use it on my worm.
just
Don't
on
need
your
to.
fluke.
Just on my fluke.
Okay, I say this because again, in a podcast, we had a guy say he would take the stick stuff and he would rub it on the hard bait so that when the fish hit it, it gave him a more natural, almost a feel because of that glaze or whatever that he put on it. I don't know how true
I
that
don't
is.
know.
So I'm not too versed on stuff like that. So getting a little late. So how about this? What plans do you have for FCP fishing here in the short term future?
Short term?
Any lakes you going to?
I'll be fishing in Alabama again here sometime soon. For the most part, due to some health issues, I'll be sticking around home for the most part, though,
Mm-hmm.
and just going to continue to grow it.
Still fighting that COVID stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, absolutely. What about you? What's your short term future there, Mr. Pinkston?
Work.
More baits, more nuts.
Now
More
you,
nuts, more
listen, now, you
baits.
got to be getting into the festival season, right?
I've got the Georgia Outdoor News Blast here at the end of the month. And we've got the Buckarama next month.
I might come
down
see
in
you at the
Perry.
blast.
And then we get into our festivals September, October.
Yeah, you're really busy during the fall and stuff like that with those.
Yeah.
And again, guys, if you haven't tried Sugar Hill nuts, you definitely need to. Where can they find them at?
Outside the Bass Pro Shop down there at Sugarloaf Mills. We're down at the Macon Bass Pro Shop fairly often. My son has actually gotten into the business, and I think he actually cooked those. So
And they're very good.
you're
Tell
doing
me
a
he did
good
a fine-
job.
he
And
did a
he goes
fine
down to
job.
Macon fairly often. We're up there at the, actually it used to be Pendergrass Flea Market, but it's now La Vaquita Flea
They
Market.
changed the name of it. Yeah, I understand.
So,
Understandable. Hey, listen, I know what he's saying. I got you.
I like it up
That's
there.
very-
It's a very festive place, very
It is a very
cultural
festive-
place.
It
So,
is.
kind of.
It's a diverse
You're going to
community.
come, leave all your whatever hang-ups at the door and come on in.
It is a very diverse. I enjoy it. when I
Somebody
go
bumps
there.
into you, just say, hey.
That's-
You don't have to go like,
just keep it chill, right?
just chill, man, because you're going to get bumped into. There's going to be dogs, they're going to be, some are going to be barking, kids are going to be crying. I mean, it's a happening place.
It's a happening place right there. So,
So
again,
if
that
you
is
have
not,
any problems with anything, then maybe
Not the place
not
for
the
you.
place for you. But if you can go and have a good time and
there you go.
come see me.
Y'all boys fishing Hammond's digital tournament Saturday, or is it Saturday? No, we are not. East Hall, the club that Ryan and I are in, we have a tournament running Saturday out there. So we're going to be fishing that.
Yep.
Sounded about right. So
Y'all
like
have
that.
fun.
We're going to have fun. It's going to be hot, though. It might rain.
Well, I was talking to them. I said, y'all.
Oh, yeah. Y'all have fun with the digital thing. That's pretty cool.
I'd like to try that one time.
It's actually,
I've thought
A
about.
lot of fun.
it is fun. Have you ever, it's
Don't
basically, you like
you
the
would,
melody.
you would like
you would
it.
like
I know
it.
you don't like fishing really tournaments, but you would actually probably
I have nothing
enjoy
against
that.
tournaments. I just,
Because it's
Right.
MLF. You weigh the fish, you make a
Oh, I
recording,
see.
you
That's-
submit it, and then you let it go.
It's
the
like-
best way to do
And
it.
Yeah.
you like to see how many fish you can catch. You like to go out there. You don't like to go out there. You're not like me. You don't go look for 5. If you go out there and you catch 30, you're thrilled.
I am.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Hell, I would be
he
too.
He would really probably enjoy it.
I think you would.
And that's kind of different in mindset and approach.
It is. Yeah, it is. I think it'd be pretty. I got to get Dana. We'll have to go fish.
You should try. Y'all,
Y'all,
should jump in the boat.
we should jump in the
together.
boat, and y'all jump in the boat, and we'll go do it one day. We'll just close the store like we always do.
You should do it live with Dana one week.
That'd be
Yeah, we can
fun.
do that sometime. Get on
Sure.
the boat with you. So Dana's all for it like that. So, all right, guys. So again, it's right about 10 o'clock, and I know Dana's
That's what
been
it
here a
is
while.
right there.
What's that?
Unlimited amount of fish, 2 pounds or over, 6:30 to 2:30.
Yeah, so that would be
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
That's right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I'd like
we
to go
need to do
do
that.
the live thing again sometime.
We need to do that right there. So, Paul, you gonna put that one? I'll have to start the show from the beginning at work. Sounds like I missed another great show. Hey, listen again. Now, the first few minutes we had some sound difficulties. I might actually go back and edit that part out like that. But yeah, if you get a chance to watch it tomorrow or whenever, a lot of good stuff been said tonight. I want to thank you, Dana, first of all, for coming up here again.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure when you come up. And guys, again, go check out FC. It's like FCP. I can't get the P out. FCP Fishing.
How many of you guys would want a sticker that says FCP Fishing?
We're trying to get him to do some apparel and stickers and stuff like that. He needs to do it, man. So
Thank you, Tim.
absolutely. So, Steve, as always, thank you for coming up. Thank you, guys. Listen, Sugar Hill, the nuts are great, but check out the Sugar Hill shaky heads and the underspins.
Available at Fish North, Georgia.
Available here at Fish North, Georgia, but they are one of the best underspins on the market. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke up the man's butt. They actually run true, got some great colors and stuff like that. So, again, we appreciate you not only keeping us stocked up, but come up here like that. Yeah, actually, we had a guy do a TikTok. We'll figure all that out.
Shout out Nathan Skinner.
Yeah, and you, I'm going to beat you this weekend. I doubt it. You doubt it? I doubt it, too, like that. So, guys, we're going to end this episode. We will be back Tuesday with another live on the water next Thursday night. LJ, Jim Harmon's going to be in. It's drop shot season. He wants to come on and talk some drop shotting. And then the week after that, if everything works out right, we're going to be down at ICAST all week. So we're going to be down there. We're going to be rubbing elbows with the people and stuff like that. But we're going to try to we're trying to get media credentials to see if we can get in and actually do some filming, maybe a live from down there, stuff like that. But we'll definitely be doing the Livewell from, at worst case, the hotel room. It'll be Josh, Ryan, myself. We will have Adam Dukes, who is a TV producer out of Chattanooga and stuff like that. So we're going to go down there. We got a lot of big things coming up on the horizon here at Fish North, Georgia that you guys are really going to like, getting ready to go take it to the next level and all that. But again, thank you. If you're watching and you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that before you leave. And again, we'll see you on the Livewell again next Thursday. So we're out. You guys have a great weekend. Be safe out there.